Jeff, thanks for joining me. So looking forward to this conversation. It's been great to work with you and your team on this really exciting and important search for the school. And before we get there, though, just tell viewers a bit about your background and what drew you to the school.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Gabe. It's good to catch up with you as well. Love working with you and your team. So what brought me to this school? Well, I have a um, I have a background both in education, but also in sort of Chinese studies. I lived in China for 15 years, and have done advanced degrees in China and Chinese literature, and so. Um, I had the opportunity in 2010, at that time I was living in Beijing, to come to this school and serve as its head. And I'll tell you, Gabe, I mean, there weren't and there aren't that many opportunities on this planet for those two things to come together, to both serve a school as its leader and also be able to indulge my commitment to Chinese language, to Chinese culture. And so in 2010, I moved from Beijing to San Francisco, um, for this school, because of its mission to embrace Chinese, Chinese immersion, and Chinese culture. And the program really drew me here, and I've stayed here for 16 years, Gabe. And I would have to say that, while the program has always remained super, super interesting and motivating for me and for my colleagues, um, it's actually the community of people that are here that have really endeared me to this place, and I've the reason I've stayed for so long.
Well, and let's talk about that community. It is a wonderful community of learners and educators. I've had the privilege of meeting so many of them, and of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the campus itself. So just talk for someone who hasn't walked the halls, particularly of the new campus, about the grounds, but more importantly, the community, the people, and what's happening on the ground.
Right. Yeah. So in the beginning of the 2024 school year, our school picked up and moved from sort of the center of the city, out to we're now in the southwest part of the city. We moved to a brand new campus. It was a former high school campus, and it took us 4 years to sort of acquire the campus, design the renovations, raise the funds, build it, and then move. And now here we are. And so we're on a 5.4 acre campus, which in an urban area is huge, right? Um, with three buildings, we've got a sort of a main teaching and learning building, we've got an arts building, and we've got an athletic center with an enormous gymnasium and lots of outdoor space. And so the physical environment it's been transformative. And one of the coolest things that's happened is we were on three different distinct campuses: early childhood, lower school, and middle school, spread out across an urban neighborhood. And now we're all together in one spot. And it almost seems like it was the destiny of our school to do this, because, you know, independent schools generally speak a lot about community. And we all talk about our community, and I would have to say that, it's probably the number one reason, or it's our X factor. Parents who choose the school, faculty who come to work here, is they talk a lot about the relationships between people. We've got a great faculty culture, super collaborative. I mean, these people are friends with one another. We socialize together, um, and you know, very little drama, I would have to say, and our families as well. And part of that, I think, Gabe, is that all independent schools strive to have a distinctive mission, but we don't struggle in that area, because our mission is to educate children in two languages, right? English and Chinese, and to embrace the culture of China, and by extension, sort of be respectful of cultures generally. And that really I mean, it attracts our families, you know, who send their children here. They're not just sort of looking for an alternative to public school or, you know, what's the best school. You know, we get families who are very, very attracted by this mission. And the same is true of our teachers. And I would say 50% of our faculty are native Mandarin speaking, and 50% are not. And for those teachers who teach primarily in English, they're also very, very drawn to working at a school in which they can collaborate on a daily basis with their colleagues who come from a very different background than theirs. And it's kind of it's challenging and messy and wonderful and I love it. And you know, people for whom that sounds like an exciting place to come every day for work, this is an exciting place to come for work.
I can attest to that. I can also, I would add the word inspirational. And I'll just say that quick personal aside, as you know, my three kids have attended Mandarin Immersion. We're in a different region, but our school looked to your school for inspiration. And you know, your school is a national beacon when it comes to Mandarin Immersion and has taught so many other schools and programs about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, we strive to be sort of a leader in the field of Mandarin immersion, to sort of really, and I look at it as a sort of a responsibility and a duty that we have because you know, we're an independent school. We're much more well resourced than a lot of the other Mandarin immersion schools, the majority of which are public schools with maybe a Mandarin immersion strand, alongside of an English only strand or charter schools. And so, because we're so fortunate and we're so well resourced, we really do all that we can to sort of share what we've learned over the 40 some years that the school has been in existence with other schools. Because at the end of the day, our mission is embrace Chinese, and hopefully, or it's part of our mission, right? And hopefully that mission extends beyond our school. And so I always say more Mandarin is a good thing. And so yeah, and I've worked with the people at your kids' school as well. Great folks.
No, thank you. And so great folks at Case, and let's talk about sort of the next chapter for the school. And a lot of sort of initiatives are in motion, a lot of great excitement and opportunity. Also, want to acknowledge a bittersweet transition. Your legacy and your work has been unparalleled, and I know your team members and your board and everybody is really appreciative of the work you've done, and you have let the school know that in about a year and a half, so the 26-27 year will be your final year. The great exciting thing for this next middle school director is they'll have a chance to work with you for a year and to really see the projects that are in motion, and then also be a part beyond the ground when the next chapter of the school does hit. So would love to hear from you, just what you see are some priorities and balls in motion, what's coming up and all that, how that translates into what you and the school are looking for in your next middle school director.
Right, right. Yeah, sure. So I'm looking forward to working with the new middle school director during the 26-27 school year because as you said, I've put in 16, well, this is year 16 for me. Year 17 next school year will be my last. And I want to do everything I can to set the school up for continuing success after my departure. And another way to look at it is whoever comes in will only have to tolerate me for a year, Gabe, right? But I think that first of all, the school is super strong right now. We're enjoying increased demand for enrollment. I mean, we're up about 100 kids since the pandemic. When we moved to the campus, we saw a jump in enrollment of about 10% overall. This will play out at the middle school in a particular way. We've got more kids coming up through grades preschool through 5. And we've had very, very low attrition in recent years. And so our middle school is in a situation now where we're actually growing. And the growth will mean challenges and opportunities for things like scheduling and, you know, what sort of new specialist classes will we be able to offer? Um, and so I think that you know the person who comes in next school year and takes over the middle school is going to be taking over an institution. It won't be just sort of keeping your hand on the tiller and continuing to sort of drive in the same direction. There are a lot of opportunities, you know, it's growing. Um, and I would say that in particular at our middle school, we're looking for a person who is, I would say, a culture builder, right? You know, we want somebody middle school is a very sort of particular place. I think it takes a certain type of individual to teach middle school kids and to lead a middle school and to sort of, um, you know, shepherd middle school parents through the process. And so we're looking for a person who will be a very strong culture builder, a very strong community builder. Um, and you know, some of that is sort of soft skills and relationships and everything, but also, you know, somebody who can articulate a vision for what middle school should be like in our particular kind of dual language context. Um, and then, you know, someone who can go from the idea stage to the planning stage to the execution stage, you know, spending the right amount of time at each stage, not too much or too little in any stage. And, you know, part of building culture at our school means ensuring that the English part of the curriculum and the faculty and the Mandarin part of the curriculum and the faculty view one another as one team, you know, that's supporting each other. Um, and you know, that's not a platitude, man. I mean, that happens on a daily basis at our school. You know, people are coming at different issues, whether it's academic issues or, you know, student sort of behavior expectation issues or whatever, you know, from different backgrounds. And it needs to be somebody who looks at those different perspectives as strengths, you know, as sort of additive and not, you know, kind of something that has to be dealt with or one over the other. Um, and a specific thing I think we're in a pretty strong position right now in our middle school, but we'll need sort of continued sort of care and guidance is the way that we are assessing and reporting on student learning has changed, and we're now in a sort of a competency-based learning model. Um, you know, in the past we had used letter grades, and we're in our second year of competency-based learning and you know reporting to parents and to students based on identified competencies. And that, you know, that's a challenge and an opportunity, but we really need somebody who's got the strength and the attitude and the commitment to to keep that moving forward. You know, whether it's CBL experience or experience with some other sort of, for lack of a better term, alternative way of assessing learning. You know, IB, whatever, and so that will be very, very important. And I guess I would say the last, I mean, there are many things, right? But the last thing that somebody coming here should know, and this can sound a little bit like a soundbite, but it's actually quite substantive at our school. Our leadership team works very closely together. All the way from preschool through middle school, our division directors, as well as our curriculum and instruction directors, you know, one in Chinese, one in English. We work together pretty closely, and you know, I guess it's sort of a sweet spot as a division director at our school between autonomy and independence on the one hand, but also a commitment to being one part of a whole school, you know, on a unified campus. And so we really, really work closely together. There's a real ethic of sort of collaboration here, and teamwork. And you know, we want a person who would enjoy and thrive in that kind of an environment. I want to mention something if it hasn't been if it isn't obvious from what I've said already, and it's this. Our school, we're the Chinese American International School, and we have a dual language immersion program. It is not required that our new middle school director is a speaker of Mandarin, or, has a real connection to China. That would be nice, but we want the best person for the job. And so we're really looking for somebody who's got a sort of an open-mindedness and a commitment to learning about our school, and contributing to our school, whether that's in English or in Mandarin. So important to note.
And I was going to ask you, so I'm glad you brought that up. And let's just end on a note that sort of ties all that together. When you think about mission alignment, what it means to what I would say be a blended community. And you've walked the halls, you've walked the different campuses. Just when you think about like what it truly means to be such a multicultural, blended, inclusive, just collaborative environment, either a small vignette or story that really encapsulates that, or just some other foundational principles, or just however you explain
Yeah.
to somebody about the school that it's not just A or B or this happening and then that, but it truly is a great melting pot.
Yeah, so thanks. That's a great question. And I think there's a concept that we've been sort of kicking around and talking about internally, really for years, and we're starting to really try and codify it and embed it into our school. We call it the bilingual bonus or the immersion bonus. And I think when I got here 16 years ago, there wasn't a ton of academic research on bilinguals, but that's changed. And what we realize at our school that we're able to do is we're able to achieve all sorts of things that I think a lot of schools are trying to achieve, but we're able to achieve them specifically because we are a bilingual school. There are all sorts of things that benefit individuals, the way that their brains are wired by virtue of being speakers of more than one language. Um, and they benefit individuals. And there are also many ways in which I think, and there is research that shows how being bilingual is beneficial to society. So we really want our kids to be developing as part of their core identity, the identity that I'm a bilingual or I am multilingual, and therefore I can, X, I can Y, I can Z. And it's really, really important that our faculty, our parents, and our kids understand that bilingualism is a gift, and it goes far beyond simply knowing a second language. It's not simple, but there are so many other benefits, and that's what drives us.
I think it's great. And again, as my kids are in the same boat. I talk about it. Just it opens doors and it opens the mind to a whole other perspectives. And I really think, having seen what Case does, it truly is a door opening school, and it creates opportunities for a lifetime. And it's just a brilliant community.
Well, thanks, and we're hoping that open door that we'll get a terrific next middle school director to
Well
walk
said.
in
Well,
and
yes.
help us with help us over take carry us into the next era.
Well said. Well, the door is open for applicants near and far to apply. Thank you so much for your time, Jeff. It's been great to talk here, and we look forward to working with you on the rest of the search.
Sure, thanks a lot, Gabe.